Greetings, this is my review for Army of the Dead, which dropped on Netflix just last week. Yes, I've had a haircut, get over it. Now, I made a video back in January where I listed the 10 films I was looking forward to the most in 2021. I think, from memory, I left Army of the Dead off that list, and if I did, that was a mistake because I've been really looking forward to this ever since it was announced. I am something of a Zack Snyder fan. I think all of his films in the DC universe are absolutely masterful. I wouldn't say I've ever revered his Dawn of the Dead remake, though, mainly because I've only seen it once, and I'm not sure I was really in the mood for it the night that I watched it, so I definitely need to go back to that one. I'm not sure, though, that Army of the Dead takes place in the same continuity as the Dawn of the Dead remake, because the zombie outbreak that happens in this film that we're reviewing today feels like the first time in this world that such a thing has happened. There's no mention of any previous outbreak. There's no real indication that another outbreak is happening elsewhere in the United States at the same time as the one in Vegas. So I don't know. Let me know if you've got any knowledge about that. But this is fine if it's its own thing, but it's just a bit strange, therefore, that they would have put Of the Dead on the title to sort of give off the impression that it's connected to Dawn of the Dead. I don't know. So the story today obviously sees an outbreak in Las Vegas. I've already sort of hinted at that. The US Army managed to get up a temporary wall around Vegas to keep all the zombies from getting out into the other states. And the president has decided to just nuke Las Vegas to get rid of the problem nice and efficiently, so there's no risk of the infection getting out. I find this a little bit of a strange decision because once the zombies are walled into Vegas, you would think that they could just send attack gunships over the top of the place and just start taking out all the zombies. The zombies can't multiply, presumably, so you'd think it would be a bit like in George Romero's Dawn of the Dead, where they wall off the shopping mall, so there's only a certain amount of zombies inside the place, and then once you start killing them, their numbers are going down, and there's no way that the zombies can add to those numbers. So on that theory, I'm not sure the nuke option is entirely necessary, but this is a thing which didn't really actually occur to me at any point during the movie, so I can't count it as a story negative. So anyway, there are a group of mercenaries or soldiers of fortune who get called up by this Japanese gangster guy who has an offer for them. He says, right, go into Vegas and steal 200 million for me, which I know is hidden in a vault underneath a hotel on the Strip, and you can have 50 million of it. So these guys say yes, and about 9 or 10 of them go into Vegas, into the hot zone to try and retrieve this money, and that is the movie. Now, if we start with my positives today, I absolutely love the way that this film opens. The opening titles are brilliant. They are some of the best titles to any film I have ever seen. We sort of get this montage of clips from when the original outbreak in Vegas was actually happening prior to the events of this film starting, but it's all set to this really quirky Vegas music. Some of the little clips are quite comedic. You know, you see groups of strippers running around, having already turned to zombies. You get to see an Elvis impersonator about to get squashed. There are also some really gory, actiony bits with like somebody holding a big saw, like cutting zombies to shreds. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a great way to start this movie. The titles do a good job of setting the tone for the movie, not just in terms of the quality, but also in informing us that this is going to be a fun adventure rather than just a violent, scary one. But Vegas feels like the sort of place where it's right to take that kind of approach. You know, it is a fun holiday destination where people are just going crazy and having a good time. So it feels like we should get a story which is not completely dark and gloomy like some of the old Romero classics, Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead, that kind of thing. The funny thing with Zack Snyder doing this film is that people often criticise him for making his superhero films too dark, and yet here he is doing a zombie horror film, which is a little bit light in tone. You'd think he would try and do that the other way around, make his superhero films a little bit light and his horror films very dark, but I like his style. I like what he does here. The titles are actually pink. I've not seen pink titles outside of a romantic comedy film, not that I watch many of those. Now, the music in this is very good as well. There are a number of recognisable songs which I'd actually forgotten existed, but I approve of all the ways that they're used in this film. The soundtrack is really great, in all honesty. The characterization is fab too. There are a number of really good characters in this. You don't get to know them that well, but they remind me of some of the really great ensemble teams from 1980s films like Predator and Aliens. You know, when I inevitably watch this film again because it's really good, one of the things I look forward to is just getting to see these people working together and going on this trip into the heart of Vegas, into the heart of darkness. They're just a great bunch of characters. Dave Bautista plays the main guy, and I think this could actually end up becoming a defining role for Bautista because he is great in the action scenes in this. He's a very likable actor. I've liked him ever since I saw him as Hinks in the Bond film Spectre a few years ago. He's great in Guardians of the Galaxy as well. There's this computer nerd guy who starts the movie being really annoying, and you can tell that he doesn't want to pick up a gun, and you think, oh, this guy's just going to get in the way. I'm going to hate this guy. And actually, he turns out to be really likable. He's really funny. There's also this female helicopter pilot who reminds me of those characters from the female Ghostbusters film, which is not as terrible as some people say, by the way. And I could go through them all. They're such a great bunch of people. They're so much fun to spend time with on the screen. Even the people who are supposed to be scumbags in this film are fun. So there's a character who's a little bit like, say, Burke from Aliens, but I really liked him. I didn't want him to die, even though he was a bit of an arsehole. So top marks for characters. Zack, absolutely love the people who are in this movie and go on this mission together. If simply balls to the wall action is what you're after, though, you will get plenty of that in this movie. The zombie body count is astronomically high. It just feels like zombies are dying all the way through this. And some of the action sequences are just amazing. There's this one bit where the characters are heading through some kind of dark warehouse and they get attacked by zombies, but it's really close quarter fighting. This one woman, she's doing all these ninja moves, spinning around, slashing zombie throats, shooting them at the same time. It reminded me of Brian Mills in Taken, except with zombies, obviously. Just great stuff. There's also another great sequence which takes place in a casino. This one was my personal favourite. And actually, if I was trying to come up with my own zombie film in Vegas, I think this scene would have been sort of the first thing I would have come up with, because it's like this huge room with all these slot machines in it, blackjack tables, that kind of setting, and zombies are just jumping over the tables and the slots trying to get to the characters, and the characters are just mowing them down. There's like grenades going off and zombies dying much deserved deaths. Dave Bautista's just spinning around doing all these moves. It is just absolutely bitching. There are also some really satisfying action scenes, but on a much smaller scale. So there's one moment where they're trying to get into the vault, but there's these traps, these pressure plated traps in front of the vault, so they don't know how to get past these. So they get some zombies and make the zombies walk over the traps to set them all off. And there's some great carnage in that scene as well. There's a skirmish with a tiger. I mean, this is at least as much an action film as a horror film, but it's just so much fun all the way through. So much blood and gore and splatter and satisfying things happening. It's awesome. The ending, what an ending. Not so much in the action, but just in how creative it is. I wasn't sure where the ending was going when I realised that we'd arrived at the last moments, and I thought, what are they going for here? And then when the very last seconds of the movie happened and then we cut to credits, I thought to myself, oh yes, that is actually really good. It's a really ironic ending. I'm not going to talk about it explicitly because I've made it this far without giving any spoilers. I'm going to keep it that way today, but this is one of the cleverest endings to a film like this I think I've seen in a long, long time. I think for my final positive, I'll just mention the fact that Vegas in this film looks stunning. If I compare it to another horror film which took place in Vegas many, many moons ago, Resident Evil Extinction. Now, I love the Resident Evil films, but I've got to admit, the Vegas that we got in Resident Evil Extinction was a little bit pathetic. Vegas had basically sunk into the sand. There was no Las Vegas. In this film, we actually get to see an apocalyptic vision of Vegas, and it looks stunning. It's like the sort of thing that Zack Snyder might have put into Batman vs Superman You know, when you see all those nightmarish cities in some of the dreams and stuff, it's just visually resplendent. I mean, they've poured a lot of money into this, but it's just jaw-dropping. Some of the sights you see when the characters are walking through Vegas trying to get to the hotel. It's a great movie to look at. Before we get on and rate this thing today, I'm just going to quickly go through my negatives. I've only got two of them. One of them is a really silly thing which could have been avoided. So when we get to that really cool ending I was going on about earlier, we then move to the credits and a really cool song starts to play. I just wanted to bask in this music for however long the credits went on for. But Netflix, after about 4 seconds of the credits, decided to take me into a preview for Jaws. Now, ignoring the fact that nobody needs a preview for Jaws because every man and his dog has seen it at least 11 times, why take me out of the credits at that point? Why not just wait until the end of the credits and then put a preview on for some of the movie that you want to get me interested in? It was really annoying this. Once I got back to the menu out of the Jaws preview, I then put Army of the Dead back on and fast forwarded to the credits to see if I could watch the credits this time. Same thing happened again. I don't know if this is something that you can change in the settings, but it's annoying. And I think Netflix need to really sort this out because it's not ideal. In a perfect world, I'd just go out and buy this on Blu-ray because it's a great film. But I'm guessing because it's a Netflix film that the only way to really own it, if you can even call it that, is to just permanently have a Netflix subscription. But anyway, and the other thing I'm going to slightly complain about today is I guess you would call them super zombies. So there are certain zombies in this film which are really smart like humans, and I'm not convinced that that was actually needed for this. I think if they just had some really fast-moving zombies like the type in 28 Days Later, that would have been fine. Maybe have the occasional zombie that's a little bit smarter than the rest, like the one in Land of the Dead, but having this really super intelligent breed of zombie, I wouldn't say that it didn't work, but I just found the whole exercise really forced, as if it just wasn't necessary for this particular movie. And the main head honcho zombie, the king zombie, he was really cookie cutter, really just uninspired in the way that he was portrayed on screen. He was just boring, you know, he was just some random guy who just growls, and that was all there was to him. I kind of feel like they just didn't have many ideas for this guy, and they just put the most basic version of him on screen and set him loose. I think they could have done better with him as a villain. So the zombies side of this film was a little bit mediocre compared to everything else, which was brilliant, I guess is what I'm saying. Right, let's get to the bag of terror and find out what sort of score we have for Army of the Dead. Lots of axes in here today. We've got 1, 2, 3. It's an army of axes, you might say. 4, 4.5 bloody axes out of 5. That is a wonderful score. That is only a little bit short of masterpiece status. I really loved this film. When I compare this to Spiral, which is my previous film that I reviewed, it makes me a little bit sad that I watched Spiral at the cinema and yet I was forced to watch this great movie at home. I should have been watching this one on the big cinema screen, but never mind. So this film is thoroughly recommended. It's an awesome experience. I will definitely be going back to it in the future. And I guess I'll be back with another review very soon. So until next time, cheerio, bye-bye.